What if every workout you created for yourself or your clients got even better results? Are you listening? Okay. Do you suggest supplements? What's your stance on that? I personally believe that in 2023, it's still and always will be food first. And yet, I find it almost impossible, even for me, who I would say is incredibly conscious of what I will and what I refuse to put in my mouth, to eat enough of the good things and enough diversity on a consistent basis, or to eat all that I would need in order to make the nutritional needs that I have. It's going to take more to compensate for depleted and overworked soil, sabotaged by pesticides and fertilizer. And as new discoveries are made, new science about molecules we didn't know could support human health and human aging, do you ignore them? Stay virtuous and say, no, 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 I don't do that? Or are you curious about how they could help you and your clients? Side effects, I know, are something we always consider. But if there weren't any negative side effects, then what? I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to She Means Fitness Business. It is an entity of a Voice for Fitness, my overarching business, LLC. And at Voice for Fitness, we know that you want to be an inspirational example to midlife women. In order to do that, you need a profitable and health fitness coaching business. And the problem is a lack of clients or a lack of money because you're not charging enough, which makes you feel uncertain about whether you can succeed and make a living. We believe you deserve consistent, dependable revenue from clients you love. And I understand how it feels to be where you are. I've been there too, which is why I now train fitness pros internationally. Here's how I do it. I meet with you in a call. We create a plan of action based on where you're at now and your definition of success. And then along the way, we celebrate your growth, every little tiny step in the actions that you take. So book a call. And in the meantime, get your health and fitness professionals scorecard so that you can stop feeling your dreams slipping away while other less qualified, less heart-centered health coaches make sales and get more clients. And instead, you can easily create your revenue and increase it by $5,000 a month in 90 days if you're just starting out. If you're doing better than that, what does 25% increase sound like to you? Okay. I want to dive into this episode, and I've given you the lowdown. So I want you to expect this is going to be a really short and sweet, back of the room, the green room content that complements a Flipping 50 episode that I will send you to. My guest is Jennifer Scheinman. She is an RD, completed her dietetic internship at New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell Medical Center and went on to complete her master's degree in integrative and functional nutrition at Saybrook University. Over the past 20 years, she's worked at some of the country's leading institutions for health and wellness, including Hospital for Special Surgery and Optum, where she led the creation of nutrition and health education programs that positively impacted thousands of people's lives. Jen is currently the Senior Manager of Nutrition Affairs at Timeline Nutrition, educating health practitioners and consumers on the latest scientific breakthroughs in healthy aging. We answered just a very few questions here, and you're going to want to take advantage of going over to the Flipping 50 podcast after, but listen to what Jen has to say, as it's the only for health coaches and trainers questions that I ask here for you. So Jen Scheinman, thank you so much for coming over here to double dip for us today. We want to give health coaches and personal trainers a little bit of an inside tip, and they know very well, most likely food first is the same that anyone would echo. But we also know this is 2023 and food is not the same quality. People are on the go. They can't always do it all themselves. So when supplements come up and how to supplement, I think this is something that every trainer here knows mitochondria is so very important to the success that they will have with clients. What would be 3 or 4 reasons why a trainer might want to have a conversation about alternatives to not just their diet, but to help them have more energy with something like MitoPure?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And I think one of the things to me that's really important is that MitoPure specifically works in a very unique way compared to some of the other supplements that are out there in terms of how it supports mitochondrial health. And that is really in its ability to regulate the cellular renewal process called mitophagy. So when we look at human studies, really the only things that do optimize mitophagy are things like fasting, exercise, of course, and then urolithin A or MitoPure. So it's very unique in how that works. The other thing is, as you had mentioned, is food first. As a dietitian, I firmly believe that. But unfortunately, when it comes to urolithin A, we actually rely on our gut to make it. We don't get it directly from food. And studies show that actually the vast majority of us don't have the right gut microbiome to make it. And as we get older, we know our gut microbiome changes as well. And so it's just becomes really impossible to rely on what's happening inside our gut to get this nutrient. And even for those of us who can make it, the main place to get it is through pomegranate juice. And when people are trying to monitor their calories and especially monitor their sugar intake, we don't really want to be encouraging people to add a lot more juice to their diet. And so not to say that pomegranates aren't very healthy if you're eating the whole fruit, but to really get the most impact for urolithin A, it would have to come from the juice. And in fact, 6 cups of pomegranate juice would be equal to what you would get in 1 dose of MitoPure. And that's definitely something I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending to my patients, which is
Right.
why I go directly to MitoPure. So yeah, so a lot of good reasons there.
So love that. And I think everybody listening knows, they're women. And let's just be real. A lot of our audience is a female in this demographic, and we're not immune, right? So there's sometimes that feeling where there's a little imposter syndrome as if we're supposed to be perfect and demonstrate this is the way it should be. But to trainers and health coaches who are listening, you also may want to try it for yourself. If you're like me, you try everything and like, and trust it before you ever bring it up and put it in front of your audience. So I think that is something to consider. But I think it's also an open conversation with, hey, this is something I'm trying, this is something I'm doing, and here's why I'm doing it. So come back to, I think this, which comes first, chicken or the egg thing, because I think a lot of trainers will get clients who, number one, they have to lay off. They're going to be at bed rest. Maybe they've got long haul of a certain virus issues. Have you seen any, even if not testing, literally formal clinical testing, long haul people taking MitoPure and getting good results or support?
Yeah, well, so as a supplement company, we have to focus our research on prevention and just sort of optimizing health and not going into sort of that disease state.
Hmm.
That being said, I have heard feedback from doctors though who are using it with, you know, issues with like long COVID and other fatigue issues like Lyme and chronic fatigue, where there is mitochondrial dysfunction in those conditions. And so they are using
Hmm.
it there. And I've heard good results. We are not studying that particular area ourselves, though.
Yeah, great. I'm glad you contributed to that. I also want to suggest that, I mean, you mentioned chronic fatigue, but there's also this thing literally called exercise intolerance. And it can strike people who've got congestive heart failure, but women going through menopause. And I absolutely despise it when somebody says, this is like a disease state. It's menopause, for crying out loud. I mean, we all go through it. It's just a phase of life. It's not a disease. But yet, a lot of women can experience this intolerance to exercise, even if they had been endurance exercisers, they have been fit before and they've earned it. And I think this is another instance where when you're finding, your females aren't tolerating exercise in the way they did, this may be supportive to help them kind of get over the edge. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, exercise, well, first of all, menopause for some can feel like a disease, even though it isn't technically
Right.
one. I mean, the
Right.
symptoms can be really, really um, terribly invasive into your life. And so I think when we think about what is the root cause of where some of this like fatigue and exercise intolerance is coming from, and when you think about our ability to convert, for our mitochondria to convert food we eat into energy, any strategy that can make the mitochondria provide ourselves with more energy seems like it would be a good idea. So again, we're not doing research into that specific area, but
Yeah.
the safety and tolerability of MitoPure, I think, makes it something that practitioners are really interested in trying with their patients, because it has just such a good safety profile and it has some really incredible science behind it.
Love that. Okay, trainers, health coaches, we're going to send you over to the full episode, and that'll be at flipping50.com/healthy aging to actually hear the consumer podcast that will help you gain a lot of insight. And I'm going to share the contact information of where to follow Timeline Nutrition to learn more and stay tuned in. But this is a great tool to put in your toolbox to just be able to talk to and kind of keep this in the back of your mind when you have people who may be struggling that you can help.